In the desolate heart of the Sahara Desert, where wind and sun seem to conspire to erase all traces of human presence, there exists a formation that has confounded explorers, scientists, and conspiracy theorists alike. From above, it appears as a perfect spiral embedded into the crust of the Earth, a swirling depression and ridge formation ringed by concentric circles that stretch across nearly 50 kilometers. It is called the Richat Structure, though most know it by a far more evocative name, the Eye of the Sahara. It looks less like a natural landform and more like something carved, something deliberately etched into the skin of the world, a symbol left behind by something ancient or something not of this earth. The eye sees everything, and yet no one seems to truly see into it. The Eye of the Sahara was first brought to global attention during the early years of the space age. Apollo astronauts, orbiting far above Earth's atmosphere, noticed an immense circular pattern gleaming faintly through the dust of the desert, a formation they jokingly called the bull's eye of Africa. At that altitude, it stood out in uncanny perfection against the landscape's chaotic sea of dunes. But when word spread and photographs were analyzed, the questions began to multiply. What geological process could possibly carve such near-perfect concentric circles into the crust of a planet known for its randomness, its tectonic scars and chaotic erosions? Geologists proposed that perhaps it was once a giant volcanic dome, formed by magma pushing up from the depths before collapsing in on itself. Others claimed it might be an eroded meteorite impact site, the remains of a colossal collision eons ago. Yet, none of these explanations quite fit. The minerals found within its rings did not align with typical impact signatures, and the symmetrical elevation patterns didn't match known volcanic formations. The Eye of Sahara refused to blink. It simply stared back, indifferent to the theories of men. But even if natural forces shaped it, something about the eye's proportions, its geometry, tempted the mind to stray towards stranger possibilities. When satellite data was released to the public, online communities began to draw comparisons. The eye's outer ring measured roughly the same as the circumference of an ancient city many have searched for across centuries, the mythical Atlantis described by Plato. The more this comparison spread, the more uncanny the coincidences became. Plato had written that Atlantis lay beyond the Pillars of Hercules, that it was an island larger than Libya and Asia combined, and that it was destroyed by catastrophic floods that swallowed it beneath the sea. Yet the Sahara, in its most ancient history, was not always a desert. It was once a lush green land of lakes and rivers, and geological evidence confirmed the existence of catastrophic floods across North Africa thousands of years ago. Was it possible that what now stands as a wind-swept desert depression was once the concentric ringed capital of Atlantis, now turned to stone and buried beneath millennia of sand? The allure of this possibility was irresistible. Explorers began to arrive, chasing whispers of lost continents. They brought drones, mapping equipment, and ground-penetrating radar. What they found deepened the mystery. Within the eye's slopes, beneath layers of sediment, were fossils of marine life, evidence of a time when the area might indeed have been underwater. But this was no ordinary shoreline. The arrangement of layers suggested alternating exposures and floods, repeated cycles of submersion and emergence. The story of water here was written in rhythmic pulses, as though the land itself breathed in and out over the ages. As more expeditions combed through the area, strange tales began to circulate among them. One French researcher, a geologist by training, claimed to have found geometric patterns inscribed on rock surfaces deep within the structure's innermost ring, interlocking grid lines too precise to be the product of chance. When he tried to share photographic evidence, the files on his camera were mysteriously corrupted. Others dismissed him, but he withdrew from academia shortly afterward, refusing all interviews. Another expedition, led by a documentary team, reported bizarre magnetic fluctuations in their instruments. Camera drones malfunctioned mid-flight, GPS readings drifted miles off course, and batteries failed without explanation. Locals claimed that even compasses behaved oddly there, spinning slowly as if uncertain what direction to trust. Then there are the stories from before modern exploration. The nomadic tribes who dwell along the edges of the Sahara, Tuareg elders especially, speak of a forbidden circling place, said to be inhabited by invisible guardians of stone. They say that voices can be heard on the wind at night, and that travelers who stumble too close often vanish, lured into the eye that never shuts. No one knew where these legends began, only that they are as old as the first caravans that crossed the desert. What makes the Eye of the Sahara so particularly disturbing is the feeling of intention. Every scientific explanation seems somewhat plausible and yet incomplete. The patterns are too ordered, the symmetry too uncanny. Even erosion, which can yield miraculous accidents of beauty, rarely produces such balanced design. Some have attempted to dismiss these speculations entirely, asserting that humans simply look for order where none exists. But something about that place seems to demand a deeper answer, as though the land itself carries a code. Some geospatial analysts notice that if you trace alignments from the center of the eye outward, lines connect it to ancient sites across Africa and beyond. One alignment points toward the Great Pyramid of Giza, another intersects the megalithic monuments of Tassili N'Ajjer, yet another, disturbingly, leads in a straight line to the Canary Islands, once proposed as the last mountainous remnants of Atlantis. None of this, on paper, should mean anything, but when enough coincidences begin to form a pattern, coincidence loses its innocence. There are darker theories too, ones whispered only among the more conspiratorial corners of online archaeology. Some argue that the eye is not just an ancient ruin, but the visible portion of something much larger buried deep below, an entrance to an underground world. High-resolution radar imaging has revealed hollow spaces, sinkholes that seem to connect through narrow shafts descending hundreds of meters before fading into voids the sensors can't penetrate. Some believe that whoever or whatever once dwelled there retreated into those depths long before the Sahara turned to sand. They claim remnants of a lost civilization survived, perhaps even influencing human cultures that rose millennia later in Egypt and Mesopotamia. The mythic gods who descended from the sky, the luminous beings described across different ancient texts, what if they came from beneath instead? Even mainstream science admits that the Sahara's prehistory remains one of Earth's greatest unknowns. Underneath the dunes lie entire fossilized river systems that once coursed from Central Africa to the Atlantic. Ancient settlements, lost to drought and encroaching sand, dot the desert floor. Stone tools, petroglyphs, and carvings depict giraffes and elephants, proof of once abundant life. But the transition from paradise to desolation was abrupt, almost violent. Climate models suggest a sudden shift, though the cause remains debated. Volcanic activity, orbital wobble, perhaps even cometary debris, all have been suggested. Some whisper that the eye itself may have played a role, as though some enormous energy release or technological cataclysm altered global weather patterns. An impossible claim, and yet the coincidence lingers. Among those obsessed with the eye's mysteries was a researcher named Laszlo Hoffmann, a Hungarian geometrist with a fascination for lost civilizations. Hoffmann traveled to Mauritania several times in the late 1990s, mapping the formation with what he claimed were experimental 3D laser scanners. His unpublished notes, circulated after his disappearance, contain references to resonant harmonics and subsurface cavities capable of amplification. It almost reads like the diary of a man convinced the Earth itself was a machine, one that had once operated and then shut down. In his final email to a colleague, he wrote, "If I am correct, the eye was not a city, it was a signal. We just don't yet know who it was meant for." Nothing more was ever heard from him. To this day, no official expedition has confirmed or denied his findings. Indeed, few are permitted close to the eye's center now. Permits are elusive, access limited to a handful of researchers at a time. Some suggest that the restrictions are merely bureaucratic measures. Others believe they serve another purpose, to conceal ongoing discoveries, perhaps even excavations already underway beneath the surface. Satellite imagery continues to evolve, and every new dataset raises fresh eyebrows. Certain thermal scans have revealed hotspots irregularly distributed across the innermost rings, pockets of residual warmth inconsistent with surface temperature variation. They do not correspond to any known volcanic vents or geothermal activity. What, then, could still be warm beneath a formation thought to be hundreds of millions of years old? In forums and niche circles, speculation runs rampant. Alien reactors, magnetic anomalies, buried craft, even remnants of a forgotten power source once capable of altering environments. But what if we were to look at the mystery differently? Not as an enigma to explain away, but as a mirror reflecting something older in our species, the instinct to mythologize the unknown. Across time, humans have peered into the natural world and found gods, messages, portents. Perhaps the eye's greatest power lies not in its physical presence, but in the way it awakens that primal reflex. For the Tuareg, it is sacred wilderness. For Atlantis hunters, it is a clue. For geologists, a case study in erosion. For conspiracy theorists, a buried secret. The eye accepts all visions and reflects none. Still, the uncanny shape remains. Those who have seen it in person describe an overwhelming sense of scale, a feeling not merely of grandeur but of subtle wrongness, as if their position in the cosmos momentarily shifts. Standing atop its rocky slopes, wind hissing through the stones like distant whispers, one can easily imagine the place once alive, a metropolis of shining rings, towers of ivory and crystal glinting beneath the sun. And perhaps, as the wind blows over the barren rock, it carries echoes of that impossible city. Murmurs caught between time's forgotten folds. There are other signs, scattered across global mythologies, that seem to align with the eye's tale. The Dogon people of Mali, not far in relative terms, hold sacred stories of beings from the star Sirius who imparted forbidden knowledge before vanishing beneath the earth. The Berber tribes tell of a kingdom swallowed by sun and sand, whose light gold temples burned brighter than the sun itself. Each of these legends predates modern contact, and yet preserves a core motif: a lost civilization punished or hidden for its arrogance, cursed to slumber beneath the land. Scientists may scoff at the idea, yet carbon dating surprises everyone. Certain sediment layers within the eye contain microstructures, silica shards, formally resembling vitrified sand, a kind of natural glass that forms under intense heat. Possible volcanic origin, yes, but some samples' composition resembles the glass created by nuclear detonation tests. An impossible parallel given their age, unless somewhere in prehistory there existed a source of heat powerful enough to melt the desert at molecular levels. What kind of event could leave behind such scars, impact, energy burst, or something much stranger? As with so many mysteries, the lines between science and storytelling blur. Was Atlantis ever real or merely Plato's allegory? Did a meteor strike and form a bullseye that time later smoothed into its present perfection? Or did a lost civilization harness forces that scarred the Earth, leaving behind the fossilized eye of its creation? The deeper one looks, the less satisfying any answer feels. The eye seems to feed on doubt itself, a riddle that thrives by never being solved. Locals sometimes tell of nights when strange lights dance above the formation, bluish orbs that appear without sound, coasting just a few meters over the desert before vanishing. Skeptics suggest these are atmospheric mirages or plasma discharges common over arid lands. But there are those who have seen them up close, wanderers caught by dusk in the desert's heart, who speak of losing time, of hearing low vibrations humming through the ground, like the purring of an enormous engine awakening beneath the world's crust. Most never return to the eye again. Toward the end of every tale about the Richat Structure, one detail echoes. It resists categorization. It cheats explanation. Every expedition ends with more questions. Every mapped coordinate contradicts the next. Even the dunes that creep across its flanks seem to rearrange themselves, as if the land subtly shifts each year, blurring any attempt to chart it precisely. Some digital topography comparisons made a decade apart reveal incremental alterations, rings faintly wider, inner depressions slightly deeper. Erosion cannot account for such specific morphing in so uniform a shape. Perhaps the eye slowly turns, imperceptibly, like some titanic clock still counting aeons. Imagine for a moment that it is indeed turning, each ring a gear in a mechanism too immense for human hands to design. What would happen when that mechanism completes a cycle? Would the desert crack open, revealing what slumbers beneath? Or would a long-forgotten signal finally reach the stars, carrying a story written not in language, but in geometry, a message carved into Earth itself? For thousands of years, civilizations have risen and fallen around such mysteries. The Eye of the Sahara has outlived them all. It watched as ancient Egypt's empires rose along the Nile, as Rome conquered and collapsed, as humanity launched itself into space. From orbit, its gaze is still visible, serene and patient. Perhaps it is waiting for us to understand, or perhaps understanding was never the point. Some doors are not meant to open outward, but inward, toward the dark spaces of imagination where myth and memory intertwine. And so, the eye remains. Under the merciless sun, buried in solitude, ring upon ring of stone whispering secrets in a language older than thought. Travelers who stand at its rim describe a vertigo not just of height but of time itself, as if the spirals beneath their feet could draw them inward, past sand and fossil, past stone and memory, into the unknowable depths of what the earth remembers. Beneath the shifting wind there is a hum. If you listen long enough, some say, you can hear it too. They call it the heartbeat of the Sahara. Others say it is the eye, still watching, still waiting, for the moment mankind dares to look back.